Showbiz Tonight is asking more tough questions as we count down Jodi Arias' top 3 worst enemies today. And we are doing it with HLN After Dark correspondent Beth Karas. She has been covering every day of the Arias trial in Phoenix for HLN. And Jane Velez-Mitchell's compelling coverage of the trial is seen weeknights on the Jane Velez-Mitchell Show. That happens, of course, at 7 p.m. Eastern here on HLN. Jane is with us tonight in New York. And ladies, I want to kick off our Showbiz Countdown with enemy number 3. A psychologist who was back on the witness stand today, who was, ironically, hired by Jodi's defense team to help her case, not hurt it. We saw the live testimony all day here on HLN. Dr. Richard Samuels trying to explain Jodi's claim that she does not remember shooting her boyfriend, Travis Alexander, then stabbing him nearly 30 times and slitting his throat. But is he turning into one of her worst enemies? He was supposed to serve Jodi Arias' defense. Instead, Jodi's expert witness ended up getting served himself.
He is getting carved up on cross-examination like a Thanksgiving turkey.
Jodi's defense expert, psychologist Richard Samuels, was supposed to testify that Jodi suffers from a stress disorder that explains her hazy memory of the night she killed Travis Alexander.
That's one of the criteria of post-traumatic stress disorder.
But prosecutor Juan Martinez blew a huge hole in that plan by pointing out a simple fact.
She lied, right?
Yes.
You see, Jodi has told 3 different stories about what happened the night she killed Travis. Problem is, in court, Samuels had to admit his diagnosis was based on a PSD test that Jodi took back when she was still telling story number 2.
I witnessed Travis being attacked.
Which was a big fat lie.
Perhaps I should have re-administered that test.
Possibly. So Jodi could now be asking herself, with defense experts like this, who needs enemies? Jane Velez-Mitchell, I gotta know what you think. Is this psychologist who was brought in to help her actually hurting her and unintentionally now turning into one of her worst enemies?
Yeah, can you say nightmare that is boomeranging on the stand, AJ? This is a disaster for the defense. This defense psychologist got up and said, oh yeah, there was a fog. She had PTSD. She had amnesia. But, oh yeah, she could still throw the camera in the washer and take the gun and drive out into the desert and dispose of it. He explains all of her incriminating behavior. But oops, he did it. He diagnosed her based on her lies, so it doesn't count. The prosecutor pointed it out in a brilliant, detailed dissection of this exam he gave her.
This is not the way it's supposed to go. Beth Karas, you're out there every day covering the trial live here on HLN. What's the vibe out there about this guy who, again, supposed to be there to help her, is turning into a really terrible enemy for her?
Well, there's no question, AJ, that people in the courtroom are kind of shaking their heads at this testimony because, as Jane just said, I mean, he did base his diagnosis on lies of hers, and he didn't try to corroborate some of her statements when he could have tried to determine whether or not they were lies. Now, he did say some of these lies are not that important, and she definitely experienced a traumatic event, whether it was witnessing people killing him or doing it herself. His diagnosis would still be the same. However, jurors are scribbling notes and they're scribbling questions for the doctor. So we do expect that he will be answering a number of the jurors' questions. We're
going to have to see how that plays out and if it gets any better for him and them. But while the psychologist is now unintentionally turning into one of Jodi's worst enemies, number 2 on the Showbiz Countdown is someone who is, of course, very intentionally her enemy. It's the guy who did the demolishing of the psychologist, namely prosecutor Juan Martinez.
Man, were you crying when you were shooting him?
He made Jodi Arias' life on the stand difficult.
You're the one that did this, right?
Yes.
He's doing the same to her expert witness.
You don't have any memory problems, do you?
No.
And Jodi's attorneys aren't big fans either.
Objection. Can we ask the state not to yell at the witness?
Prosecutor Juan Martinez continues to take no prisoners in his efforts to send Jodi to death row.
Answer my question.
Prosecutors aren't in court to make friends, especially with the defendant. And in Martinez, Jodi has one dogged enemy. Yeah, and Jane, we're witnessing Juan Martinez seemingly relishing his role as the chief tormentor to Jodi and her expert witness, aren't we?
Yes, he is aggressive, and he is the worst thing for a woman who's a pathological liar because he won't let anything go. She changes her story a little bit and thinks maybe I can slide on that, and oh no, he comes right back, whether it's, oh, did a holster exist or didn't it exist? He dives into the details, and that's how you catch a pathological liar. And he bounces around. He's not linear, so that he's trying to catch her off guard, and he has caught her off guard. He has really, really shown this woman to be a big fat liar, and so she has zero credibility.
Yeah, and Beth, he really fits the role of enemy in Jodi's case so perfectly with all that aggression, doesn't he?
Well, yes. And, I used to be a prosecutor, and, you take your cases personally sometimes, even though you probably shouldn't. As far as Juan Martinez is concerned, he is here to do justice to Travis Alexander's death. From Juan Martinez's point of view, this was a premeditated, vicious slaughter of a man who didn't deserve it, and he intends to see justice. Now, that's his point of view. Jodi says that she was justified in doing this and that she was tormented by Travis Alexander, but Juan Martinez is relentless. He's like a rabid dog, and let me tell you, he is so prepared. I've seen lots of cases, and this is a man who is up there without notes, just hammering questions at all of the witnesses. He stands in the well of the courtroom acting things out. You don't see him looking at notes, looking for the next question. No, it's all in his head.
Yeah, I have found that really stunning as I've watched the coverage live here on HLN as well. And to your point, I think that just shows how personally he is taking all this. But look at this. You would think that the guy who's trying to send Jodi Arias to death row would be her #1 worst enemy, right? Not exactly. #1 on our Showbiz countdown of her worst enemies is Jodi herself.
After all the lies you have told, why should we believe you now?
It's clear that if Jodi Arias is convicted, the biggest reason would be the defendant herself.
If I hurt Travis, if I killed Travis, I would beg for the death penalty.
And even if Jodi manages to get acquitted, she's doing herself no favors in the court of public opinion.
It might change my memory.
This new video of her singing and acting weird during a break in her police interrogation doesn't make her look good, especially the part where she complains that she doesn't look good.
You should at least done your makeup, Jodi Coach.
Either way, Jodi seems to ruin everything she touches, and that could include her very own defense. Jane, we took a good hard look at this countdown before we put it all together, but it really is no contest, is it? Jodi Arias is clearly her own worst enemy.
One of the most self-destructive human beings and destructive human beings that I've ever witnessed in my life. And her own words. I mean, this woman should have stopped talking a long time ago. Remember when she infamously said, "No jury will ever convict me"? Well, then she said, "Oh, that's because I plan to kill myself," which she never did, obviously. It really is a very tragic case and a cautionary tale. Don't be like this.
And the wild ride will continue, but where will it go next? Jane, Beth, thank you both so much.